Hey, what's up, everyone? Some of my friends have been asking me about how supports work in Lost Ark. I can cover everything about support in this video to help my friends and upcoming new players in choosing their support main. With the new appearance of the new class artist, there are 3 support classes in Lost Ark, and each have unique playstyle and advantages. This video will cover all 3 classes again in detail and compare playstyles at the end. What's different about supports in Lost Ark? Supports are a little different in Lost Ark compared to the traditional MMOs. Let's go over the basics. For example, all supports have the same mechanisms in this game. There are something called an identity gauge, where it fills up when you land your attacks, and you spend the identity gauge to either heal or DPS boost your party mates. Majority of the time, you give shields to your teammates, and these shields last only a certain amount of time. Therefore, ultimately, DPS users would need to dodge most of the time and rely on their battle potions. You can't really rely on the support's heal alone. So keep in mind while watching this video, Lost Ark support's play performance is based on how well you provide these temporary shields, various buffs, and heals to your party mates at a certain raid point or guardian raid point. All 3 have the same mechanisms, but a little different in playstyle. So I think it's better to go over the classes in detail, just to educate fresh players with some basic knowledge of how skills work. Then we can compare and categorize them afterwards. You can feel free to skip to the later part of the video if you want to see the comparisons. So, Bard. You can categorize these skills damage boost related, vitality related, which is shields and stuff, and counter identity gauge filler skills. So going over the damage boost related things first. So skill Sound Shock. You use this to enable 10% extra damage to yourself and your teammates, called marking. You can notice here, enables 10% more damage to this particular boss. So for example, you would need to use this as the cooldown goes away to make sure you land that 10% extra damage every time. And then you have Harp of Rhythm. This is also the same for marking skill, but some people use it, some people don't. But this is also the same marking skill which enables 10% more damage to a certain thing. It's just that this is more of a turret placement than actually landing your non-target skill. Sound Wave Vibration creates a field where party mates receive extra damage buff. So if I use this here, as long as you're standing on top of this area, you receive extra damage. So it is good. It is crucial to have like a really good placement to your teammates. And Heavenly Performance, this is the main buff skill that every bards use, which it increases your attack speed, damage buff, and mana regeneration. You don't use both of these together because they don't stack. It's not the most newer bard players mistake on. So you would need to use these 2 buffs together, and then when the buff runs out, you will need to cover that up a little bit here, and by the time this buff runs out, your other the 2 buffs will be on cycle. And let's go over the vitality rated ones. Wind of Music, it provides shields to near teammates. The range is rather short. A better player tend to provide shields while moving around, because like all these other characters are like moving everywhere, right? Indomitable Performance, this is increased defense, provides shields, and removes 1 debuff. This is also very good. Rhapsody of Light, this is a super armor skill. It creates a field that provides extra defense. So if I show you here, so you notice I use this, I'm standing still and it creates a little zone. People who are in this zone receives extra defense. And also I'm super armored if I increase a certain tripod, which is the super armor part. And this super armor is widely used if you don't want to get knocked out. I go over this a couple times in my other videos, but this is for like a very end game raid, so you don't have to worry about this in like tier 1 or 2 content. So let's go over counter identity gauge filler skills. So Overture Storm, it fills up a lot, right? And every time this cools down, you gotta go close to the boss and make sure you use it to fill up your identity gauge. This is the longer one, which is Soundholic. This takes a bit longer, but it fills up identity gauge as well. And the Rhythm Buckshot, which I had before I replaced it to this is your main counter skill. Especially supports should be able to counter most of the time to help the party mates. Not all DPS classes have the best counters, but supports usually have a really good counter. Like for example, the Bard's counter is very quick. Now, while you're filling up the identity gauge, you see here, so I have 1 bubble filled. So when you have 1 bubble filled, you have an option. You have an option to heal, actually. You don't have an option to enable damage buff because the efficiency is pretty bad. There's a thing called a 3 bubble and a 1 bubble. When you have a 1 bubble, you usually just heal like this. And this is your heal, which is the X key, using the identity gauge. This is a recent patch where it used to use every single bubble that you have. Now it doesn't. Now, usually most of the time, if you use your ultimate, which is Symphonia, right? It fills up the bubble instantly. So whenever it fills up to the second bubble, sometimes they just use your ultimate, which it fills to the 3 bubble. And with the giant shield amount that you have, like you're practically invincible for like a couple seconds, because like that's a lot of shield amount that you have for a certain amount of time. They use the damage buff as well, like this, enabling the 3rd bubble, right? The 3 bubble damage buff. This would be the very basic skills that you would need to learn as a bard. What defines a better bard? Well, they fill up the gauges much faster. They make sure the buff doesn't go off in cycle. They counter a lot too. And the for harder rates, they have extra care. They use this Rhapsody of Light skill at a very critical point in time. Let's go over to HolyKnight. So damage was related: Unbearable Radiant, Retribution, Ruffin's Sword, and Wave of Light. This lasts 6 to 12 seconds compared to the skill. For example, the Wave of Light has the longest, which is 12 seconds. And then we have the shorter ones, which is 6 seconds. And the medium one, which lasts 10 seconds. Shorter ones, which is Unbearable Radiance here, to enable 6 seconds, or I can use the Ruffin's Sword to stack it up to enable 12 seconds of just 10% extra damage. Hand of Heaven, which is the main buff skill, that enables 15% more damage and 6% more damage compared to the tripod. And then you have the Guardian Angel, which is the same buff as the Hand of Heaven. So you can't use both of them at the same time. So you would use this, and during cooldown, and while it lasted out, you would use the other one, which is the Guardian Angel, to have this damage buff last a lot longer. For vitality related, we have Shielded Faith, which is one of the better skills that the HolyKnight has. It's a targeted shield skill. It automatically shields everyone around you, which is a lot farther, which is 24 meters. It's same as the bard's regular buffs. It also heals at the end of the buff. And we have the Ruffin's Sword again. It works as the Rhapsody of Light. If your party mate is in this field, it receives less damage. And then you have the little smaller one, which is the Holy Land, which it provides 20%, 25% less damage taken while your party mates are in the field. So let's go over the Identity Gauge filling skills, which is a Ray of Hope. You would use this to mainly fill up your Identity Gauge. For HolyKnight, you have the blue skills. For example, Dagger Lunge is like a mobility skill for like a quick dash. Plus, if you would use the correct tripod, you would have your speed boost, and you would also have shields. So most of the time you would level this up to 7 so that you speed up, have some shields, you just walk around a lot faster to provide better support. Internal Bleeding. This one uses for if you run out of stagger. If you want a little bit more stagger, people you tend to use this. Harsh Retribution. This is one of the main skills that they use. Harsh Retribution works as a counter and provides a decent amount of damage / it also recovers some of your identity gauge as well. So Sword of Justice, this is your one of the better counter skills in this whole game. You notice there are multiple stacks. Each stack counts as a counter. So let's say the raid monster is about to counter. If you just use it, since it lasts for such a long time, you would usually land most of the counters. Your Symphonia equivalent of the HolyKnight skill, it provides big damage, big shields, and it fills up your identity gauge by a ton, right? Unlike bards, HolyKnights have one bubble, right? You have the gauge filled up. You have an option to turn on your blue sword, which you can troll. This is a troll move, right? No one does this unless you're like a DPS HolyKnight. You turn on your Holy Aura, which provides extra 10% damage on top of what you have, providing the buffs. And you also heal up. You have an aura coming out if you activate it. So let's go over the playstyles a little bit. So unlike a bard, there are multiple skill builds for HolyKnight. For example, there are taking 4 blue skills and 4 yellow skills. You can take 2 blue skills and 6 yellow skills, and 3 blue skills and 5 yellow skills. So without going into too much details, I wanted to cover the most basic, most newbie-friendly skill build, which is the 3 blue skills that has the most efficiency, and 5 yellow skills with a choice of whichever ones that you want. So going over one by one, you have Hand of Haven and Guardian Angel, which is your mandatory buff skill, which I explained before. You enable this 7-second buff before it runs out. you would switch up into Guardian Angel to enable another 7-second buff. And by the time it comes out, you have this thing ready to go again. So you're consistently enabling this buff, this damage buff to your party mates. So it's very, very easy. Now you have the extra shield one too. Heal up your party mates and provide shield, and you can actually move faster too. And while this marking runs out, you have another skill that enables extra marking as well. So you have this extra 6 seconds, right? By the time the skill runs out, you'll have this other skill ready to go. Now going with the blue skill, you have the extra mobility to go to your teammates or to do gimmicks. The harsh retribution, which it deals a decent amount of stagger and has a counter ability as well. And then you have another counter, which is a Sword of Justice. The skill over here, Unbearable Radiant, you can switch this skill to a different one, which I've explained before, which is Retribution or Wave of Light. So you can use, if you want to fill up your identity gauge more, or you actually want to provide more support and defense. It's totally up to you, but the mandatory skills are pretty much a set in stone. These 4 skills are too good. So you have the Rufin Sword, you have a Shield of Faith, Hand of Haven, and Guardian Edge. You have this as your main skill. And for blue skills, the skill that you absolutely need to have, Sword of Justice, is your mandatory. So you have 3 optional skills to have. I would also add Harsh Retribution as well, because it's such a good skill. So these 6 would be your main skill that you're supposed to have, and then you have the 2 optional choices depend on how you want to build and how you want to have your playstyle. So you're consistently going around for your teammates, you provide shields, you provide the buffs, mobility around, you counter, your gauge fills up, you turn on the aura. That's it. And this covers most of the HolyKnight section, and let's go over the artist real quick. So artist is a little bit different, and it's a very new class. I think it's better for me to explain in comparison to the other skills other classes that I've explained in the beginning. For example, this particular skill, drawing Sunwell, this is exactly the same as Sound Wave Vibration for Bard. It creates a zone, and when you're in a zone, it provides attack boosts, right? And then you have your main buff skill, which is Draw Sun. And for 8 seconds, it provides damage buffs, which is around the same as the Hand of Heaven or Guardian Angel. And now the comparison is, what are your support skill, like vitality support skills, right? This is basically Rhapsody of Light, but you can also move during this skill if you enable a certain amount of thing here. So you receive less damage, you're super armored, and you can move around if you want. And then you have the marking skill. For 6 seconds, the bosses receive 10% more damage. And this particular skill as well provides extra speed and movement speed as well. So you notice here, you have the movement speed, and you also enable your marking on the boss, which is a damage enabler. Now you have the identity gauge filler, which is which also works as a movement skill like this. This activates as an identity gauge filling skill. It fills it a lot. And then you have your main gateway one. You create a gateway, but this is mainly used for filling up your identity gauge because it actually fills a lot. Then people usually use it to fill it up or do a cleanse. So, or you also have the purple skills, which is used as filling up your identity gauge as well. Most of the purple skills are used as filling up identity gauge or stagger, or one of the counter skill, which this one is. You have the main shielding skill, which is this one. It provides shields to your party mates around, and then you have your shield skill again, which is also used as a mobility skill. This provides shields to your party mates as well. And then you have your main attack speed skill, also working as the 10% marking skill, which is for 12 seconds, so it's good enough. Every time it ticks, it just lasts. So by the time this runs out, your cooldown most of the time it's done. So you notice it has 3 seconds still left, and then you have 1 second here, and you can just use it again to mark it again. That's why you only need 1. And now when your bubbles are filled, this is the same as the Bard. You have 3 bubbles. Unlike Bard's 3 bubble damage boost, right? Identity damage boost is limited to 2, just 2 bubbles, right? So as long as you have 2 bubbles, you can just keep activating this damage buff, which is 10% more for 10 seconds. Let's say I have bubbles ready to go, 2 bubbles ready to go, and your party mate needs heals. You just need to set up the marbles, and your party mates can pick them up for heals. So this would be like a stationary setting up heals. Your awakening skill, it fills 2 bubbles. So you notice here, provides big amount of shield and fills 2 bubbles. This is the basic things that I could share. The playstyle is a little bit different compared to the other 2, but it doesn't really change from the fundamentals, which is providing buffs, make sure the cycle doesn't break, provide enough shields, fill up your identity gauge, and activate your identity for your party for damage boosts or heals. So to review each class, Bard has the best kits to protect your party mates. They have the highest shield potential, and 1 identity bubble can heal almost half the party mates' HP with a proper setup. Third bubble attack buff is the only option in the whole game that can boost everyone's attack by 15%, which is crucial for raids that requires a lot of DPS. And bards have very strong skills, but it is hard to use them properly, and it requires you to have some knowledge in the game. For example, if the third bubble identity skill is used, but if all your party mates' damage skills are on cooldown, or the raid boss is in a phase where they have severe damage reduction, you tend to waste the big opportunity there, right? Timing is crucial on bard on raids. For shields, window music provides a lot of shield very fast, but you need to be close to your party mates, which requires you to understand many DPS classes' general positions to provide proper shielding. You can easily notice a good bard and a bad bard due to the harder mechanics they have. So HolyKnights. HolyKnights' biggest advantage is that they are extremely easy to efficiently provide the benefits. Buffs are much longer to sustain, and shields have much longer activation range with auto targets. Heals are also passively gained through shields DOT benefits, and your bubble activation provide a huge area of effect that you don't need to worry about positioning as much. Also, since they're a warrior class, they're the tankiest out of the 3. However, they do lack a little bit on the amount of healed and the amount of damage increases. So such a thing as bard super saves, like big heals in an area, is a little harder to expect, except using the awakening skill of a HolyKnight. Also, with having many various skills like blue and yellow skills providing various effects, it is a little bit harder to set your skills up. There are more varieties in skill builds compared to Bard, where Bard is fixed with few mandatory skills. So Artist. Artist is similar with Bard, but more focused and damage boost than shield support. It is hard to determine correctly, being a fairly new character, but upon playing and hearing reviews from veteran players, the skills are very unique and fun to utilize, but hard to master them. Artist is also very squishy. I see various newer Artist players die from making only few mistakes in a raid. Again, like shields lack compared to Bard, so it's much harder to sustain. On a side note, she has the highest DPS potential among the 3, to a point where DPS artists actually assist. So considering there are solo contents like Chaos Gate, etc., artists tend to be much better than other supports in clear times and overall damages. So what kind of DPS people are really good with these supports? For example, bards are really efficient with burst DPSs. A burst damager, so it's like Red Gun Lancer or Deathblades, burst Deathblades, or classes that have a very, very long cooldown, but does a lot of damage. Berserker is also one. These kind of DPS classes work really well with Bard. HolyKnight, on the other hand, it creates an aura, right? It creates an aura, it consistently fills up HP. It provides consistent 10% damage, right? What does that mean? It is better for consistent DPS and cycle DPSs. And who's that? Gunslingers, Shadowhunters, and Blue Gun Lancers, right? Or Artillerists, or any of the other classes that are cycle dependent DPSs. They do consistent DPS for a long time because they cycle skills very, very, very fast. A Scouter is also one of them, but it's not an NA. Classes that does consistent damage works really well with HolyKnight. Artists, same thing. I think consistent DPS, cycle DPS is a lot better than burst DPS because Artist is basically the same thing. You fill up 2 bubbles and you provide 10% buff, and it's activated very frequently, right? By the time it runs out, you can run it again. The buff lasts about 10 seconds. When 10-second runs out, by the time you fill it up again, I think it's like up to 2 or 3 cycles. This actually means that the 10% buff is more consistent and more often than HolyKnight. So it might actually be better for consistent DPS people. For artists might be a little bit better for consistent DPS people because it provides that extra 10% more often than HolyKnight or Bard. So, conclusion. After I reviewed this particular video myself, I feel that I covered the very basics of the class without going into too much detail. So If the information was too basic for some of you guys, I'm sorry in advance, right? I hope this helped any of the future support players out there. If more experienced guys want to hear some more details about this topic, I'm really open to just have a conversation about it. So I'm happy to help out on my live stream. So you can come by anytime you want. As always, thank you for watching, and hopefully you guys are excited for the February release. Cool. Thanks, guys. See ya.